the plants take care of the fish.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
And it's completely driven by a microbial ecosystem that we can't even see with our eyes, that are
Mm.
transforming fish waste into plant available nutrients, and that's how it drives. So it isn't a delicate ecosystem and a balance, but that's really what we're striving for in these systems. I like to say we sleep well at night when the system takes care of itself.
Mm.
So it's a beautiful system. I have specialized in 35 years, and I've stood on the
Wow.
shoulders of giants. I've gotten
Mm.
some of the biggest grants in the world in this area, and now I'm
Wow.
training the workforce of
All
the.
right.
Okay, three, two, one. Welcome back to VisionCast Network, where intention, collaboration, and technology gather in service to humanity. And this project is really about spreading good word out into the global community through collaboration, intention, and technology. So if you resonate with this message, make sure to like and subscribe and give us a like. That gives us a higher ranking and gets the message out even more. So today's guest is Charlie Schultz. Now, Charlie, pardon me, Charlie is a aquaponics and hydroponics expert and fresh back off a wonderful trip to Cambodia. So welcome, Charlie. It's so good to see you again.
Thanks, Christian. You and I get to see each other regularly in some of our fitness and
Yeah.
meaningful classes, but nice to be here today with you.
Yeah, well, loving to have you here. So tell me, what got you into your line of work? Give us the backstory, please.
Yeah, let me start with I am currently an academic director at Santa Fe Community College,
Okay.
and I run a program that does have a lot to do with hydroponics and aquaponics. That's called controlled environment agriculture. And I like to bring them back to the time when I had a light bulb moment. And I inspire them to hopefully look for those light bulb moments that can change your life. But when I was in high school, I had changed my diet in the late 80s to
Mm.
eating birds and fish. And I
Okay.
thought that was a very healthy way to eat. Sustainability was a concern of mine. Even my health, personal health, I saw red meat wasn't the best way to eat.
Okay.
So at that time, I was eating well and eating a lot of seafood. And a lot of people that I talked to, if you were around in 1988 or 87, you remember when medical waste washed up on the eastern seashore of the US.
Yeah.
Atlantic City, the mafia went out and bought
Yeah.
everyone's trash and took it out to the ocean and dumped it
Yeah.
out of sight, out of mind. And the solution to pollution is dilution. And but this is all persistent and it washed up on our seashore, on our beaches. And to me, that was the first sign of even dirty, polluted beaches. And
Mm.
now everywhere, that's a common sight. My kid grew up in a time where all beaches were polluted. We grew up in a time where no beaches were polluted, and this was one of the first signs. And then it wasn't just pollution, it was medical waste. And that was a light bulb for me that I couldn't eat these fish anymore that were in these open systems. And so, as a young person about to graduate high school, I realized I couldn't eat food that wasn't grown in a controlled environment, a protected environment. And now, 30 years later, more than 30 years later, we see the environment's been degraded even more.
Yeah.
And we see our microplastics and everything we eat from the
Yeah.
wild. I'm in the fisheries area, and so we often talk about wild fish versus farm fish. And right now, our wild fish are testing positive for opioids.
Mm.
Excuse me. They're testing positive for estrogens. Anything we flush down our toilets end up in the open systems with that
Mm.
medical waste that we saw 30 years ago. So when we talk about this farm fish versus wild fish, I'm pretty quick to change people's perception when you look at how we grow fish in controlled environments.
So sounds like a great shift was preceded by an uncomfortable moment. I grew up back east and remember exactly what you're talking about. And so, how did you feel about that uncomfortable moment when you made your shift?
You know, as 30 years later, I realize we're made for times like this. I hate to say when there's a problem, there's the solution pops up, but that's what drove my whole career was looking at these challenging situations. I've been driven to places where most people don't go. Like you
Okay.
said, I just returned from Cambodia to help farmers there, but I also lived in the Caribbean for 13 years. And in the Caribbean, you find out quickly that there's not much fresh water available.
Right.
And so you have to collect water and you have to reuse water. And when
Yep.
you're farming, it's crucial to have fresh water. So that's really what drove a lot of my direction was these challenging times and challenging situations. And I'll
Yeah.
speak quickly on that, that I'm at the community college in Santa Fe, and I am surrounded by brilliant minds that don't see the planet as degrading to the point of no return. They're looking at the solutions already. And so I'm surrounded by brilliant people who are creating this, I guess, solutions around food, energy, and water. That's where we focus our attention.
Beautiful. So what I heard you say there, encapsulated in that is a nugget, I believe. So inherent in every problem is the solution.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And
I,
so
yes,
how
please.
how does how does one then how do you see these brilliant minds at the college really unlocking that? What is the master key to unlocking that solution, would you say?
It is to realize that these end products aren't waste. It's
Okay.
a resource for something else. Um, I remember a brilliant indigenous elder, Oren Lyon, said once, he's like, we got to stop calling these things resources. These are the sources. These aren't
Mm,
resources, but we're working with the sources. And
mm,
so we just look at alchemy, maybe we can see it as that, is using the one thing to feed the next thing, and these
yes.
chains start to happen. And I've been involved in a big project in Kentucky called Food Chain because they're
Okay.
all integrated and every aspect fits together in a big integrated system.
Wow. So it sounds like attitude is huge, and that through attitude, there's a shift in perspective. And how does that relate to fish farming for those of listeners that don't know
I
much
guess
about fish farming?
Yeah, so it is about attitude, and I'm going to take it in this one direction. We like to say that students who come to my program and the programs around me associated with energy or water, they find us by coming through the back door.
Okay.
They come in with the attitude. They already know that they're moving forward. They're here to create solutions. They
Okay.
see this as opportunity, right?
Mm,
Often when you have challenges, there are opportunities. So that attitude is paramount. And so fish farming, if somebody already understands the conditions of things about sustainability, things about food and food security and food safety. They understand that aquaculture is the most efficient way to grow protein and animal protein. We also do algae cultivation, which is absolutely the most sustainable
okay.
way to produce human protein. It's almost the
Okay.
perfect amino acid profile. So again, having this attitude and having a little background that, we live in the World Wide Web now, and anybody can
Yeah.
research spirulina
Yeah.
and what are those positive benefits, and then come through our back door and say, I'm ready, Charlie. Let me sign up for your program and get a degree in 1 year, two
Yeah.
years, and I'll get you a job as well.
Wow. Love the fact that they're coming in with attitude. For those that don't know, explain, will you, briefly in simple terms, how fish waste then fuels the system that can creates this closed loop. Am I saying this correctly?
That's right. That's
To
correct.
to make a clean source of protein.
And we'll clarify this as well because we mentioned aquaponics and hydroponics.
Okay.
In both cases, we're growing plants in water.
Okay.
Traditional hydroponics, though, we use synthetic nutrients or organic-based nutrients, and
Okay.
we create a system that's kind of feeding the plants these nutrients.
Okay.
Aquaponics derives the nutrients from the fish farm,
Okay.
and we still grow the plants in the water, and we create a balanced ecosystem where the fish create nutrients for the plants, and
Okay.
the plants are the biofilter cleaning the water, allowing me to recycle the water, and we
Mm.
use the same water over and over and over in a system where the fish take care of the plants and the plants take care of the fish.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
and it's completely driven by a microbial ecosystem that we can't even see with our eyes that are
Mm,
transforming fish waste into plant available nutrients, and that's how it drives. So it isn't a delicate ecosystem and a balance, but that's really what we're striving for in these systems. I like to say we sleep well at night when the system takes care of itself.
mm,
So it's a beautiful system. I have specialized in 35 years and I've stood on the
wow,
shoulders of giants. I've
mm,
gotten some of the biggest grants in the world in this area. And now I'm
wow,
training the workforce of the future in this area. And Santa Fe Community College really stands out.
wow. Here in our New Mexico.
Yeah, it's a some I refer to this at times as aquaculture hell. There's no fish around here, right? But interestingly enough, there's salt water. A lot of wells that we pull up in New
Yep,
Mexico because we were an ancient seabed come
yep.
up as brackish water, and we've done preliminary research at Santa Fe Community College on oyster cultivation.
Really?
Real deal Rocky Mountain oysters
Wow.
because a farmer who has access to this water can use it to grow things like shrimp and oysters.
Wow. That's the first I've heard of that. That's amazing.
And with oysters around the oceans, like I said, that's an open system. They're contaminated. A
Yeah.
lot of people won't eat oysters, and there's seafood watches, and there's a lot of
Yep.
inspections. If you did this inland in New Mexico in controlled environments, that could lead to potentially the only certified organic oysters on the market.
Love it.
See?
Yeah. I remember
Solutions.
I solutions, right? The problem or the solution isn't the problem. I remember what was it? The what was the underground oil well that erupted?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Here in
that
New Mexico.
that that one in the Gulf that polluted the whole Gulf of Mexico.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
Deep water
Yeah,
horizon.
exactly.
And for many years, people would not eat seafood that came out of the Gulf.
That's where I grew up, Christian. And
Yeah,
so a lot of my colleagues came to me and said, how do we do farming? Let's go inland and farm.
yeah,
And if you're going to make freshwater fish and you have the waste, then you do the plants and you
right.
combine it, especially in a tropical region like the Gulf of Mexico.
Now, is this something that people can do on a smaller scale for themselves, like in their home or as a, as a ongoing project?
Oh, absolutely. I like to say actually start with the hydroponics, which is cookie cutter. We can get your fertilizer together, organic or inorganic, where it's complete plant food. And you can grow amazing tomatoes in the winter and eggplants and chili peppers before everybody else has chilies. So you just the whatever your imagination can create. Hydroponics is a really beautiful system. It's so small, we do it on the International Space Station. Uh, we
Wow.
have, we have a facility in Antarctica, Eden, ISS, Eden. That's a nice thing to look at, how these controlled environments are used in these very unique spaces because plants bring harmony and peace to our lives. So
Yes.
again, that's part of living is growing. And so we have to do this in all these unique environments. After
Mhm.
I lived in the Caribbean for 13 years, I went to Canada and my first winter was minus 54 degrees Fahrenheit, and that was
Wow.
colder than Mars at that time. So it was very interesting that we can grow food and we can live in these areas, but it's got to be using these recycle systems, and energy
Yeah.
has to be a focus as well.
So the solution is there.
It's there, of
Solution is
course.
there. So how do couple of questions for you. Is that okay? Two more questions.
Of course. Yeah.
So number one, how do people find out more about this? And would it be okay for them to reach out to you? And if so, how would they contact you?
Yeah, I'm a public servant, so I work with my local communities. I work with the international community. Santa Fe Community College is easy to find. So sfcc.edu. If this goes up on YouTube, maybe we'll share a link.
Yeah.
And it's a backslash CEA. So everybody should know what CEA stands for anyway, Controlled Environment Agriculture. This allows for year-round production, Christian, here in Albuquerque, here in Santa Fe. Without a greenhouse, without an indoor environment, you cannot grow year-round. If we're looking at medical grade growing, we can't do it without controlling the environment because our
Yeah.
environments are so polluted.
Yeah.
So again, we look at that as an opportunity to move
Hmm.
forward And hopefully we can see our planet reclaim and repair itself while we're taking some pressure off.
Love that. Love that idea. And that gives people the opportunity to shift their thinking in their approach and start to become more aware of how they are influencing the environment.
I like to say that to my students, they hear me a lot saying, this is a paradigm shift. This is a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
You can't pick up this textbook and do this way. This is a whole new way of thinking. It's circular economy, circular thinking,
Yeah.
life cycle assessments, looking at the holistic ways that we're doing things, and really taking advantage of something that was a waste and reclaiming it. Yeah,
That is powerful. Um, okay, last couple of questions. This idea of a closed loop and maximize it's a productivity model in some ways, yes?
sure.
How
Efficiencies too.
efficiencies, yes. So how does one here's a jump for you. How does one apply that mindset to one's personal life? How would you see that um manifesting?
So as I said, efficiencies, right? So if we can
Yeah.
strive towards a closed loop system and different aspects of how we live, then we can become more efficient with our energy. And using that energy to its maximum, I think we get the maximum out of life.
Mm,
It's like my systems, we can say closed loop, but I like to say semi-closed loop. We're not quite
yes.
there. And what
Right.
I like to do with my systems is start to identify where I can tighten the loop a little bit.
Yes.
Aquaponics system, we often look at using the algae that we're also experts at as part of
Mhm.
the fish feed and these kind of things to tighten the loop just a little bit more for
Yeah.
sustainable. And
So
if we
every
could become sustainable, and I like to use actually the word resilient instead of
okay.
sustainable because I
Okay.
can measure resiliencies, and that's a whole nother conversation. But if I can strive to get a little closer every day, I think that I can move
Oh,
and be healthier every day.
beautiful. So every minor shift in awareness and intention can create a powerful leverage fulcrum for greater change.
Absolutely. And I've been with you long enough in a fitness class to appreciate what you just said and appreciate all those fine things that make the whole. Um, yeah, I live my life moving that bar forward and tightening that loop, and I do that with our systems as well. You
Yeah.
asked about reaching out. We are public servants, and I encourage people to find me. And it's an open door policy at my college. We have a state-of-the-art greenhouse that's off grid. We have huge battery storage that we partnered with Sandia National Lab, so we can talk at a big scale, and we can also talk at a much smaller scale.
Wow. Thank you. So just like attitude and a small shift in perspective led us to creating new ways of addressing the pollutants. Those same small shifts in perspective and attitude can improve the quality of our overall life as we go out into the world by looking at our systems and who we are and how we show up in the world.
We are systems.
We are systems.
And I like to say we're connected. A
Yeah, we
lot of
are connected.
people, many people in the world know me as I, Charlie, and you're I, Christian.
Yes. Right.
We're I and I, we're one.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
systems that are connected, just like my biology in the greenhouse.
The I. Yes. So is that your next book? We are systems.
I got to get through these writing assignments. I'm trying to not avoid them anymore.
No, we can give thanks to Hillary for that. So last question, Charlie. What is the single most important thing you want the listeners to come away with from this conversation we had? Fascinating conversation.
I think getting back to Earth. The same elder who gave the quote before, Oren Lyons. I asked him once. He came to visit us, and he said, "What we are doing." He says, "We are the warriors of today." He pointed at me and my colleagues and said, "We are the warriors of
Mm,
today, and we're teaching people to do this." And I said, "Well, there's 7 billion people on the planet. A lot of people have lost faith in the planet, and how do
yep.
we move forward?" And he says the only way we can move forward is if every single human being has a relationship with Earth.
Mm.
You heard me today talk about growing plants or growing
Yep.
fish, and you were inspired just a little bit to plant a seed or think about where you're buying your product from. Look at the labels. Then that means you've got a relationship with Earth. Hopefully, you can do a little bit more
Mm.
and focus on water conservation and teaching other people
Mm.
and doing. So, come around. I'll show you how you can do. We are always signing up new students. I have community classes as well. There's lots going on at my facility.
Is this available online as well for those that may live out of state or out of country?
Some of my community workshops, I do Saturday workshops, and those are through continuing education. So, again, as we put this up on YouTube, my information will be there.
Sure.
I'm Richard.Schultz, but everybody spells the name wrong. So look for the email in the links through Christian and his program here. And yeah, I'm easy to find. And we
Yep.
do a lot. The Cambodia trip just went online at YouTube. Santa Fe Community College has a YouTube channel. So I have some talks about that. I went to Israel before. I have a talk about that. And there's lots happening and lots to see. Meow Wolf has a collaboration with my program called Ethel the Whale. And there's a
Wow.
beautiful YouTube series, part 1 and 2, Ethel the Whale. And you can see a lot of what we're doing as well.
Absolutely love it. Thank you, Charlie, for your time. I appreciate it. I know you've got a lot to do and a lot to get on with your day. So thanks for
All
joining us.
right.
Take care.
Thank you, Ben.
So can self be a microcosm of Earth? So in other words, if we get in touch with self and pay attention to self and become a better self and plant that seed, how does that grow into nurturing Earth?
Yeah, I'm very in touch with the biospherians, Biosphere 2. That was the one in Arizona in the 90s that went up, and my friend that lives here in Santa Fe was one of the biospherians that stayed in for 2 years. And we've even written papers about, again, space food production in these controlled environments. So I think that, yeah, if we look at biospheres, which represent the whole Earth and all its ecocosms, then that's who we are, right? There's lots
Yeah.
of different microclimates within us that we have to tend to and find homeostasis with the whole. And if something's not right, then it's not closed anymore and it's
Mm.
not resilient. So I do think it could be that microcosm of the big Earth.
Well, that's it for another edition of VisionCast Network, where intention, collaboration, and technology gather in service to humanity. Until next time, this is Christian Raphael signing off. Have yourself a great day. Go out and do something wonderful for somebody, an unmet friend. Cut!